Go to places where there are big fish. We know where they roam. However, there's not many of them. If there's not a lot of fish on the market and you're really willing to roll the dice on a place where there's less fish but bigger fish, that big fish can be a big score knowing that the buyers.
For 13 seasons, Dave Carraro was one of the faces of Wicked Tuna, a 5-time champion who seemed almost impossible to beat. Then the cameras stopped. So, what really happened to Dave Carraro from Wicked Tuna? The mystery becomes even stranger when you look at the life Carraro was living long before National Geographic ever found him. In fact, there's a lot more to this saga than what catches the eye. Today, we'll unveil everything. Let's start from the very beginning. Before there was a television star. Long before Dave Carraro became one of the most recognizable captains on Wicked Tuna, he was already living the life the television cameras would later turn into entertainment. His base was Gloucester, Massachusetts, one of New England's historic fishing ports, and his obsession was the giant bluefin tuna moving through the North Atlantic. By 2014, Carraro could point to a remarkable season in 2011. He had landed 52 giant tuna, including 8 weighing more than 1,000 pounds. His largest fish was estimated at just under 1,200 pounds, a fish so enormous that, as Carraro later recalled, even getting a tail rope around it was difficult. Surprisingly, he also built a career in commercial aviation, eventually becoming a captain and instructor pilot. The connection between the two worlds was more than a curious footnote. Carraro approached tuna fishing with the same emphasis on preparation, conditions, and risk that aviation demanded. He would repeatedly check marine conditions before leaving Gloucester, because a day on the Atlantic could change quickly. On one documented trip, a reporter watched him work through a fishing day that stretched into the night, with the crew eventually returning to shore after roughly 22 hours before preparing to sail again only hours later. Carraro summed up the uncertainty of the job bluntly. A million things can go wrong, but only one thing can go right. So, what did eventually go wrong? Stay with this question. For now, we'll continue with what happened next. His boat, fvtuna.com, was at the center of an actual fishing and charter business. By 2015, his operation had grown enough that he commissioned a larger 44-foot Calvin Beale vessel powered by a 1,000-horsepower Caterpillar marine engine. The larger boat wasn't built merely for cameras. It gave him room to accommodate additional customers for his charter operation, which was averaging about 100 trips between April and the third week of July. Carraro was willing to use technology to gain an advantage. One documented example came from Globalstar, whose satellite communications material featured Carraro describing a trip roughly 180 miles off Gloucester. With no cellular service available, his crew used a satellite phone to contact another fishing vessel that was catching tuna. Carraro didn't hide his ambition. In a 2013 interview, he explained that bluefin fishing rewarded competition. If another boat caught one fish, he wanted 2. If someone landed an 800-pound tuna, he wanted a 900-pounder. Then, around 2011, the cameras arrived. The villain, the rivalries, and the 5 championships. It all began with a phone call from a production company interested in making a program about tuna fishing. Producers came to Gloucester, filmed Carraro and other boats, and assembled a pilot for networks to consider. Once National Geographic picked it up, the producers approached the captains they wanted for the cast. Carraro had not set out to become a celebrity. The television opportunity emerged from the fishing business he was already running. And then came the twist. When Wicked Tuna premiered in 2012, fvtuna.com won the first season, generating a documented total of $85,950 in fish sales. Carraro suddenly had something more dangerous than a giant bluefin on his line. An audience watching every rivalry, every mistake, and every victory. His bluntness on the matter was real enough. In a 2013 interview with North Shore magazine, he explained his success in brutally simple terms. Nobody likes a winner. The more fish he caught, he said, the more resentment followed. The result was almost perfect reality television. A captain who was exceptionally competitive, openly confident, and apparently unimpressed by the people trying to beat him. The first major rivalry, however, involved someone Carraro had not originally considered a rival at all. Paul Hebert had started as Carraro's first mate aboard fvtuna.com. Hebert had also been a friend for years, and in fact, Carraro was among the people who helped bring him into the Wicked Tuna world. Contemporary reporting from 2013 gives a remarkably different account of their split from the dramatic version television viewers might have imagined. Carraro said, "I asked Paul what he was waiting for. He needed to get his own boat." Hebert himself agreed that becoming a captain was ultimately the right move. There was even a detail almost impossible to reconcile with the idea of a bitter personal feud. When Tropical Storm Irene destroyed Hebert's home in Vermont, Carraro let his former first mate stay at his house until he could get back on his feet. And when the interview was conducted, Hebert still called Carraro his best friend. That doesn't mean their professional relationship ended smoothly, but it does reveal something the television narrative could easily hide. Two men could be friends, business partners, competitors, and, at different moments, adversaries. Without those relationships fitting neatly into a villain and hero story, once Hebert became captain of the Wicked Tuna, the relationship changed dramatically. Now the former first mate had his own boat, his own crew, and his own chance to beat the man he had once worked for. Carraro also found himself repeatedly clashing with another young captain, Tyler McLaughlin of Pinwheel. The rivalry became part of the show's recurring drama, and by 2015 an episode was explicitly built around the renewed Carraro-McLaughlin conflict. Yet, there was another reality behind the cameras. A TV Guide reporter who spent time with the captains in Gloucester watched Carraro and his supposed rivals laughing together over dinner. Carraro explained the contradiction himself. "We can joke around and have a beer, but when you get on the water, things change." And the competition was not merely a storyline. Carraro's results became extraordinary. FVTuna.com won the first season in 2012 with $85,950 in fish sales. Carraro won again in 2014, bringing in $126,403. Then again in 2016 with $104,785. Again in 2017 with $98,580. And once more in 2019 with $120,318. 5 championships in 8 seasons established him as the most successful captain in the show's original run. But then comes the question that makes Carraro's television legacy harder to understand. Was the arrogant, calculating captain entirely real? The evidence says no. Well, at least not entirely. North Shore magazine reported that Wicked Tuna was a reality show in which the captains were effectively characters, while also noting that the captains said their lines and scenarios were not scripted. Carraro's competitive personality clearly existed before and outside the show, but producers were also filming a format built around recognizable personalities, rivalry, and conflict. The man viewers saw was genuinely competitive, genuinely successful, and sometimes genuinely abrasive. But away from the water, those same rivals could sit together, laugh, and share a meal. Paul Hebert could call Carraro his best friend after leaving his boat. And behind the character was a fisherman who had been competing for years before anyone put a camera on him. The Carraro viewers knew was real. But television had only shown them one version of the man. When the people behind the show began to disappear. The cameras on Wicked Tuna were built to make fishing feel like a contest between personalities. Captains had rivalries, crews had loyalties, and every bluefin could change the standings. But beneath that television format was a much harsher reality. These were commercial fishermen working around Gloucester, Massachusetts, and the North Atlantic, where the dangers are very real. For some people who became familiar faces to viewers, the story eventually ended in tragedy. One of the first shocks came in the summer of 2018. Nicholas Duffy Fudge was only 28 when he died unexpectedly on July 19, 2018. Fudge had been the first mate aboard Tyler McLaughlin's Pinwheel, and he had also appeared on Wicked Tuna, Outer Banks. He had begun tuna fishing as a child alongside his father and grandfather. National Geographic and the show's production company confirmed his death and described him as McLaughlin's first mate. But there was an important mystery that remained unresolved publicly. No official cause of death was released. That uncertainty later generated a wave of speculation online. Some claimed that Fudge might have suffered decompression sickness, while others dredged up details about an earlier arrest and toxicology testing. However, contemporary reporting from CNN, the Associated Press, and other outlets consistently stated that his cause of death had not been released. Even a later report said the medical examiner was awaiting studies. For a factual account, the mystery should remain exactly that. Duffy Fudge died unexpectedly at 28, and the publicly established record does not tell us why. National Geographic incorporated a tribute into the program, including a moment of silence, while his obituary remembered him for his fearlessness, adventurous spirit, mischievous humor, and love of the outdoors. 6 years later, another Wicked Tuna personality died in circumstances that made the dangers of the profession impossible to ignore. 65-year-old Captain Charlie Griffin, who appeared on Wicked Tuna Outer Banks, died on March 4, 2024, after a boating accident near North Carolina's Outer Banks. He had been traveling aboard a vessel from Virginia Beach toward the Wanchesay area when the Coast Guard received a report of an overdue boat. Griffin and his dog, Layla, were found dead after the vessel was located near Oregon Inlet. A second person aboard, Chad Dunn, was initially missing as the search continued. National Geographic and Pilgrim Media Group explicitly said Griffin's death followed a shipwreck unrelated to the series. He wasn't killed while filming Wicked Tuna, and there is no evidence connecting the production to the accident. Then there was Paul Hebert, whose story took a completely different turn. Hebert had once been Carraro's first mate and friend before becoming a competing captain on Wicked Tuna. In 2016, however, Hebert pleaded guilty in federal court to Social Security and Medicaid fraud. Prosecutors said he had made false statements about his ability to work and failed to report income while receiving benefits. He ultimately received 4 years of probation, a $5,000 fine, and was ordered to repay $53,660. And that distinction becomes important when we return to Carraro. Despite the rumors surrounding his supposed disappearance from television, there is no comparable documented criminal case, arrest, or fraud conviction involving him. Instead, one of the more revealing stories about Carraro is surprisingly personal. His dog Pickles, a longtime companion associated with FVTuna.com and his fishing life, died in 2022 after nearly 17 years. The loss offered one of those rare glimpses beyond the captain viewers thought they knew. But there's more. The private life nobody saw. For years, Dave Carraro gave Wicked Tuna viewers almost nothing of the life behind the captain. The show could reveal where he fished, what he caught, and which rival he wanted to beat. But Carraro largely kept the rest of his world outside the frame. That makes one of the biggest revelations about his personal life surprisingly simple. In the first episode of Season 13, Carraro casually referred to Jess Boardway not as his girlfriend, but as his wife. He immediately corrected himself, "I gotta stop saying girlfriend," and added that he was a newlywed. The marriage had apparently already happened almost a year earlier. The wedding itself appears to have taken place on May 15, 2023, in Gloucester, Massachusetts. The strongest public evidence comes not from Carraro, but from his friend and fellow charter captain Robert Earl, who attended the ceremony and posted photographs afterward, describing himself as honored to have attended the wedding of Dave Carraro and Jess Boardway. Carraro did not turn the occasion into a public announcement, and the story only surfaced because he eventually mentioned his new wife on television. And the marriage was not some sudden relationship invented after the cameras stopped. Carraro and Boardway had been publicly linked for years, with evidence of their relationship going back at least to 2016. They also welcomed a dog named Calvin in 2020. Yet even as Carraro's television profile grew, his personal life remained remarkably difficult to reconstruct from reliable sources. There are photographs, occasional comments, and scattered references, but nothing resembling the constant stream of personal information surrounding many reality TV stars. The contrast is striking. National Geographic could make millions of viewers feel as though they knew Dave Carraro, while very little was actually known about the man once the cameras were switched off. His professional life after Wicked Tuna is equally important because it destroys the idea that the cameras disappearing meant Carraro disappeared with them. National Geographic ended the original series after 13 seasons in 2024, with the final episode airing on May 26. The network said the long-running series had concluded after more than 200 episodes, but it did not announce that Carraro had been fired or removed. In fact, the final season still featured Carraro aboard unveil.com, competing against other established captains. There is an intriguing unanswered question about why the show ended. So, what really happened to Dave Carraro? On August 31, 2024, the Boston Globe reported that National Geographic had canceled Wicked Tuna after 13 seasons and more than 200 episodes. The paper called it a ratings juggernaut, while Captain Dave Marciano said the series had been Nat Geo's #1 show for 13 years, nationally and internationally. He insisted the ratings had not collapsed. It's not like the ratings tanked, and yet, according to the captains interviewed by the Globe, National Geographic had given them no explanation for the decision. There were obvious theories. National Geographic had become part of Disney, and Disney had been going through broader corporate restructuring, but no source established that cost-cutting was the reason Wicked Tuna ended. The network's official statement simply thanked the cast, fans, and Gloucester community, and confirmed that the long-running series had concluded. And the timing makes the mystery even more intriguing. Carraro hadn't been pushed out beforehand. He was still aboard unveil.com in the final season, battling former champions Paul Hebert and Bob Cook for the championship right up to the finale on May 26, 2024. After 13 seasons of Wicked Tuna, one of the show's most recognizable captains was suddenly no longer on television. That absence created the perfect opening for rumors. Maybe there had been a scandal, a financial collapse, a forced retirement, or something the cameras had never shown. But when the record is followed backward, the mystery starts to dissolve. Carraro did not vanish after the show. He remained a fisherman and pilot. What disappeared was the television platform that had made his private life look public. And the ending is particularly revealing because Carraro was still there when the cameras stopped. In the final season, National Geographic's own episode descriptions placed Carraro aboard unveil.com alongside Paul Hebert and Bob Cook in a battle between former champions for the season title. The final episode was not a farewell to a disgraced captain. It was a competition. Carraro simply lost that particular season to Bob Cook of Fat Tuna. If anything, the final season reinforces how deeply Carraro was embedded in the franchise. That reputation was not exaggerated by the show. Carraro finished as champion 5 times, in 2012, 2014, 2016, 2017, and 2019. His 5th victory came in Season 8, when unveil.com landed 19 tuna worth $120,318, edging Tyler McLaughlin's pinwheel by less than $600. By 2020, National Fisherman was calling Carraro the holder of the most Wicked Tuna season titles among Gloucester captains. Then, in 2016, Paul Hebert was sentenced in federal court for Social Security and Medicaid fraud after making false statements about his ability to work while actually working as a commercial fisherman. He received 4 years of probation, a $5,000 fine, and was ordered to pay $53,660 in restitution. Meanwhile, Carraro had spent years allowing audiences to see the hard-edged captain while keeping much of his private life outside the frame. The glimpses that did emerge, such as a longtime companion, a private marriage, relationships that continued beyond the cameras, showed a man considerably more complicated than the television character. And the same distinction applies to the so-called villain. Carraro really was competitive. Contemporary reporting captured him checking marine conditions before heading out, while rival captains could be seen laughing and drinking with him away from the water. Carraro himself explained the contradiction. "We can joke around and have a beer, but when you get on the water, things change." So the evidence doesn't support either extreme. He wasn't simply a manufactured villain, but neither was the television version a complete portrait of him. That leaves the simplest answer, and perhaps the most surprising one. There is no verified spectacular downfall waiting at the end of Dave Carraro's story. No documented criminal scandal, forced retirement, or mysterious disappearance. There was a successful fisherman who became a television personality, won 5 championships, endured rivalries, experienced genuine losses, maintained a remarkably private personal life, and eventually watched his television series come to an end. Dave Carraro didn't disappear. The cameras did. And when they did, he still had the 2 worlds that existed before Wicked Tuna ever found him: the sky and the ocean. The television audience lost sight of him, but the fisherman did not lose his life. After 13 seasons, 5 championships, rivalries, deaths, controversy, and years of scrutiny, perhaps the strangest thing about Dave Carraro is that there was never a spectacular downfall to uncover. That in itself kind of makes him a rarity in the business.
Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.
Did you like this video? If you did, please consider liking, dropping a comment, and hitting the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on our new uploads. Also, don't miss this video you see on your screen right now. It's truly unbelievable.